Pred nami je pa še ena vsebina, ki bo dala to češnjico na vrhu 35. torte sofa, in sicer prava poslastica nas čaka za konec. Slišali bomo, kako se v Silicijevi dolini oblikujejo odnosi, ki povezujejo velike organizacije z različnimi, včasih celo nasprotujočimi si interesi. Jonika Hoomes bo razkrila, kaj deluje pri gradnji partnerstev v velikih tehnoloških sistemih, kot je recimo Google, in kje se ti modeli zalomijo v hitro rastočih okoljih in zakaj zaupanje, prilagodljivost in jasni cilji še vedno ostajajo najbolj stabilna infrastruktura ekosistema. Jonika, welcome to the stage. I leave you to the audience and amaze us. Thank you.
Awesome. Dobrodošli. We used to do this thing when we were scouts in Albania. Was anyone a scout? Is anyone Boy Scout, Girl Scout in the audience? All right, it's okay. I'm going to explain what it is. But we have been sitting down or standing up, but definitely not spending any time outside. So I'm going to ask you to get a little bit loud. And I know every single one of you gets loud because you know what? I was here in the awards ceremony yesterday, and I heard how loud each of you can get. So here's how it goes. I'm going to say something, and then you're going to repeat it back, and we're going to try it a couple of times. And it's going to sound like gibberish because I honestly don't know where this language is from. So step number one, let's get up. Yes, I'm that speaker. No, I just got my coffee. All right. Okay, you guys are doing good. You ladies are doing good. Thank you, I see you. I think you're going to be really loud. Okay, what's going on here? All right, stand up. Okay, we got it. All right, here's how it goes. I'm going to start slow, and then we're going to see how loud the audience gets. Oi, Lili. Ooh, that's really good. A few languages spoken here. Ameritiki tomba. Ambasamba sambasa. Oi, Lili, luala, lui. Ambasamba sambasa. Oi, Lili, luala, lui. Solid. Okay, one more time, and let's see how loud we can get for the folks that are still here and are thinking of joining us, okay? They're gonna get some FOMO, fear of missing out. Oi, Lili. Ameritiki tomba. Ambasamba sambasa. Oi, Lili, luala, lui. Awesome, thank you. All right, you may be seated. That was incredible. Thank you, everyone. So we used to do that in the conferences when we were ending, and it was just a good way where a group of strangers would get together, and then we'd remember that we had a wonderful time together. I have the honor of being the closing keynote for today. And I would like to talk about what endures when everything is shifting all around us. Imagine this. It is 2004. Slovenia is having a big bang moment of entering the European Union. And I am having a big bang moment of my own. I don't know if anyone's experienced this, but I was an immigrant. I still am an immigrant. But at this point, I'm a recent college graduate. I've studied political science. I'm very excited. I'm going to work for United Nations, World Bank. And instead, I'm in California with zero connections other than my husband, newlywed working at a nonprofit that takes their mission to make no profit very seriously. Especially for the employees, that means I'm very much underpaid. And it was the type of place that you had to bring in your own lunch. Anyone in the audience where you get really hungry, you also get angry? Does anyone have that experience? Let me do a show of hands. Okay, thank you. I see you. All right, we're going to feed you tomorrow. So I was getting super hungry and super angry, and I go to eat at this nonprofit, and I realize that someone has just eaten my lunch. And it's not a good thing. I'm getting really frustrated. And in that moment, one of my coworkers says, hey, you know what? There's this company that is having a picnic downstairs. In that picnic in 2004, this particular tech company had spent $20,000 for one day. And they felt really bad for the non-profit employees. And they had said, if you would like, you can come and have some free food. You can be a Googler for one day. And I came down, and it was magical. There was a petting zoo. There was a bring your kids to work day, so there were kids running around and being super happy. And there was food of every single thing that you can imagine, Chinese, Italian, Mexican. And in that day, I wanted in. I loved the joy and the feeling that was present, although I had no idea what Google did. So I went home, and there was this division named Edwards. Between us, I thought it was misspelled. There should have been an ed, pause, words. I put that in my cover letter. So I applied, and I said, Dear Google, I do not have online advertising experience, neither do I have marketing experience, but I speak 5 languages. I have graduated in political science. I have survived a civil unrest in Albania, and I really think I should be a leader in your division. Director or vice president, I'm open. Has anyone experienced those moments where you're just like, you just don't really understand what you're doing? But I sent it in, and they called me, and I said, which manager position is this? And they said, contractor. In those days, they needed contractors to review 2,000 ads manually. Who can take a guess on who were the early adopters of online advertising? Take a guess. What kind of industries do you think, I don't know what this thing is, but I'm going to give it a try. Let me hear it. Food, yes, that was one of them. All right, what else? Let me hear it louder. Okay, all right, what else? Who do you think saw this new company and was like, I have no idea how this works, but I'm going to give it a try? Casinos, yes, before we actually had to say what is allowed and what is not allowed, casinos were spending a lot of money. So my first customers that were asking for me to create online advertising for, they were selling large bird diapers. Has anyone written creatives on large bird diapers? It's very difficult. The second one that was very interesting was Psychic Carnation. Psychic Carnation would call all the time because her ads would get disapproved. And I really wanted to say, Psychic Carnation, you are a really crappy psychic. Someone should have told you that we realize your credit card is fraud. So do not call. But the most interesting one of all was the fact that there was a lot of customers from the entertainment industry. And those customers were quite innovative, and they were spending a lot of money. And they were the loudest. Whenever their ads got disapproved, they would say, why is it disapproved? So there was one person that had gotten started with Google early on. He was very secure about his stock. And he would say on the phone, you know what? It's just advertising. We're not curing cancer. Take it easy. And I dreamed of being able to say that too, but I never could. So in 19 years, making sure that this magical thing works, in 19 years, I started with Google, taking photos with the founders in the ski trip. Did anyone ever watch the movie, the show Silicon Valley? Did anyone see that? Okay, it's a really funny one. If you've not seen it, I definitely recommend. Imagine starting with a company less than 4,000 people as a contractor, constantly saying, family safe, porn, 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 disapprove, family safe, disapprove, disapprove. And going from a contractor to ending a chief of staff in engineering department and receiving a personal thank you for Sundar. But what happened, this story is not about, wow, look at Jonika, incredible experience. What happened in these 19 years, which were truly magical, something changed. It started from a company of 4,000 people, and when I left, it was 190,000 people. And what changed with scale was the flavor. The flavor changed. The company had hired what they called smart creatives, and we identified ourselves not as Albanian or Greek or Slovenian, but we would say, I'm a Googler. And it was very much the people that believed in values and ethos, and then that slowly changed the bigger the company got. And with that identity change comes a bit of an identity crisis. And that's what I want to talk about today. The identity crisis that is not just my own. I notice it in my clients. I work with a chief marketing officer. And that chief marketing officer is not clear what their role is today. I want to point out these 3 metrics. And by the way, you're going to have a cheat sheet at the very end. Every single metric that I share today, I want to make sure that you have as a takeaway. But if you look at the Anthropic Economic Index, they point out what is the percentage of people that are using AI today and what is the capability of AI in the future. And they are showing that the second largest, most used after coding is marketing. What is really interesting in working with the leaders as an executive coach, I sit in rooms with them and they are honest in telling me about the things that worry them. And I'm working right now with the CEO, and the board has asked of him to cut 25% of the employees by the end of the year and to be able to show that there is a 10% uptick in productivity. These numbers are real. And they are causing a lot of pain to those of us that came to the business of advertising, marketing, building with a desire to see growth and to see creativity. But I am also an executive coach, in addition to being a business advisor, and the executive coach likes to wear the hat of the dreamer. So while you can see the challenges, and it is taking a while for those challenges to come up. Okay, so while you can see the challenges on the left side, and we heard Dave talk about this yesterday. Who was listening to Dave's conversation yesterday when he was tricking us with all those photos? Okay, and who got right Madonna and the Swan? I got that one right. Yeah? Okay, for sure I knew that was not AI, everything else I was uncertain. He talked about the productivity delusion. And it is here. Think with Google releases marketing metrics every single year, and sometimes more often than that. There is a volume crisis. In Q4 alone, there were 70 million assets that were generated. And the job displacement is real. I know that you might be thinking, hey, these are US numbers, 15% of people getting cut. That's in the US, that's not here. I hope so. And I would like you all to be prepared, just like my clients, that when you are looking at the challenges, that the opportunities become just as possible. One of the leads at Google, his name is Avinash Kaushik. He is now a chief strategy officer in another company, and he constantly focuses on analytics and data. And he shows something that is very beautiful, and I hope it resonates with all of you as creatives. He shows that there is a 70% uptick when that creative is first created by us. And the beautiful thing is, and by the way, I'm no dissenter of AI. In fact, I spent a lot of time building this deck supported by Claude, Gemini, and Chat. But he says that once we build something creatively, that there is an uptick through AI that is 3.7 times bigger. And when each of you have built the relationships in a way that resonates, you will be called for the brief before anyone else, because the brand that you've built and what you've created matters. So here's what is possible in order to pivot from challenge to opportunity. And for that, I'd like us to take a look around. Where are we here today? Where are we located? I know we're in Porto Rojo, but this particular place, where are we? What is it? It is an ex-sold warehouse, exactly. So when Mojca and Polona told me that the place that we were going to talk today is an ex-sold warehouse, it made me wonder, what is the answer from pivoting from challenge to opportunity? And what if the answer is right where we are? So I started thinking about salt. And what would it mean to be the salt? You see, salt does three things. Salt preserves, salt adds flavor, and last but not least, salt makes things essential. And that is what I would like to talk about today. So here's a moment of question. I know I'm in the very end and you've had a lot of people spoke to you. I would like to ask you if you would be open with one of the three things that I'm talking about today to actually consider doing one small step, one small change on Monday morning. Who's open to saying, yeah, I'll consider it. Let me hear it. Let me hear who's on the maybe. Maybe. Okay, good. Who's on the, I don't know, I need to see the data, and that's totally cool. At Google, we used to say, everyone lead with data, everyone else outside. Who wants to see the data? Okay, all right, data too. And who is, I am so tired right now, I need a coffee, stop asking me to use my brain. Let's be honest. Thank you. Oh my gosh, I love the honest folks in the room. I would be you right now. I'd be like, stop asking for engagement and just show me what you got going. It's 2 o'clock on Friday. I'm ready to party. All right, so here we go. Thank you for your honesty, everyone. Number one, preserve. Salt preserves not just food. Salt preserves the assets that compound without the platform. So in this particular moment, I would like to ask you to think of the one person that helped you create a brief or a product or an offering that you could not do by yourself. Do you have that person in your mind? Okay, let me see. I won't ask you to say the name of the person, but let me just see. Who's got a person in their minds that they couldn't do it alone? Thank you. For me, here are the people that I could not have done this alone. In 2007, after I realized that if I wanted to survive at Google, I would really need to also get a master's degree in business. I had just finished my MBA, and this brand new team was getting started. Google realized we are going to need some partners to grow. It cannot be done by ourselves. So I raised my hand and I said, I would like to lead automotive. Between us, I didn't learn how to drive till I was 20. I am still a horrendous driver, but I was like, I think I want to give it a try. And this team, here's what they made really possible. We took a book of business that was less than $30 million, and we created $1 billion in ads. But what was really interesting is that we didn't do it by ourselves. It was able to be done because we realized there were agencies that understood automotive. And how I understood that was by going to conferences like this, and automotive dealers saying, with all due respect, Google, you do not understand automotive at all. So we realized that we needed, number one, the automotive partners that got the vertical. Number two, the OEM, Ford, Chrysler, GM, that had the money and wanted to keep spending. And number three, folks like this. Google called them smart creatives. Between this team, there were 15 languages being spoken. Not a single one of us understood online advertising, but we understood that we had to preserve what matters, which is the ecosystem. And I would like to bring a local example of Radenska. At Google, I used to meet with multiple partners, and they would pitch to me why they were a right partnership at Google. And in all honesty, I would say mostly no for very few yeses. But looking at Radenska, I'm very inspired because it is very clearly exemplifying an example of a company that knows what it means to preserve what matters. And when you are over 150 years as a company, you realize that what matters is not just the money, but it's the partnerships that you're building. Anyone from Radenska Group still here right now? Not yet. Okay, or maybe they are outside getting some coffee, or maybe they left. But I would like to, for those of you that know them, to please convey my appreciation for what they bring. So bringing it in, preserve one relationship. The question is not which AI are you going to use. The question is, who is that one partner? What is that one ecosystem that you cannot build without? That is the first question. Second thing that I like to bring today is flavor. I mentioned a little bit about the flavor changing at Google from 2004 to 2023 when I left. And here's what was really interesting. When Google started in 2004, or when I started Google in 2004, Larry and Sergey had just written a letter to the shareholders. And the letter said, we plan to be an unconventional company. That means do no evil. That means skip the short-term gains because we want to think longer than that. But what happened from 2004 to later on, the Don't Be Evil in 2015 became, you can make money without doing evil. And then after that, it became follow the law, a very big difference. And I felt the difference with our partners because they felt it first. I was sitting at CES. Does anyone know what that conference is or what it stands for? It is in Vegas. Has anyone heard it? It stands for Consumer Electronics. I was sitting in CES and a large telco and the rest of their team. We were presenting how partnerships mattered and how they're very strategic. And the person that was the lead in the group, he was C-suite, and he said, partnering with you cost me 50 cents on the dollar. This is not a partnership. And I don't know if you've ever felt when someone says something that really resonates and your cheeks just really burn and you feel the pain of that. It was incredibly true. And it wasn't just true in Vegas, but it is true right here. In 2024, the Slovenian digital marketing grew 9%. But 54% of every single digital euro from this region left. And that is not a platform issue, that is an ecosystem issue. And please don't take from this that, oh my gosh, Jonika came and she's saying do not invest in platforms. That is not at all what I'm saying. In fact, some of my largest clients are still Google, Meta, TikTok. But what I am saying is, what is the right infrastructure that is needed so that you can name your flavor and you can amplify that with the right fluency. An example that is local, that I actually just had yesterday at breakfast, that I feel really exemplifies of being clear, this is my flavor, is an orange-colored tin. Does anyone know who I'm thinking of? It is orange and it is food, and it is local. Okay, I will share. It is argeta. I love this example because it shows that someone that is naming their flavor and is joining the ranks of other companies, so few companies that are identified by color. So at this point, I would like to ask you, what is your orange, what is your flavor? And here's what I would like to do. I'm gonna hear from this group, and then I'd like to hear some words from this group, and then I'd like to hear from this group. If you were to be meeting with me at Google and you are talking to me about why your flavor is so important, let's hear it, let's shout it out. What would I hear from this group? What is the flavor? Okay, all right. But I mean the flavor of your own company or your business. What is the flavor that you lead with? Is it being local? Is it being bold? Is it being the rebel? What is that? What is your flavor? Trust, beautiful. Okay, what else from this group? Integrity. Yes, trust and integrity. All right, I'm coming here. And I have a belief that this group is going to be louder because you got some honest people here that told me that they didn't even want to vote. So I'm looking at you. Eye contact. I know you're not looking at me, but I'm looking at you. So what is the flavor? Let me hear it. Okay, that is a really beautiful feeling. What else? No, you're not going to share anything? Like, I feel like something's coming. No, okay, all right. Okay, that's all right. Anyone else from this group? Okay, well, this group has got to win then. All right, what is the flavor? You are meeting with someone and you are saying, this is my flavor, I know it, and it is worth a strategic partnership with me. I am essential. What is it? Let me hear it. Louder? Why am I missing the word? Say that one more time. Okay, okay. That is the flavor, and if you do not know the flavor, here's your action item. Go back, partner with the folks that know you best, and figure out what is the one flavor that you are going to shine with. Because if you do not name your flavor, no matter how much AI you use and whether you're using all of them or none of them, without your flavor, what they're amplifying is something flavorless. And Dave talked to us about that. Dominic talked to us about that. Know your flavor. Here's the other thing that I would like to bring. Fluency increases your power. Let me see a show of hands of how many people speak more than one language here. Okay, wow. And how many people speak Italian? Anyone speaks Italian? Okay, some people speak Italian from here. All right, here's what happens with why I would like to pitch the role of fluency and how important it is. And when I say by fluency, I mean know your flavor, and I also mean be fluent in the partnerships that you are building, whether they are with big tech or with the AI. I was meeting with an Italian group in Milan, and I was talking about automotive. And I had come in with my team, and we're gonna talk about how to sell more cars in online advertising. And they're thinking, we can talk Italian, nobody understands us. So one guy says to the other, ma non lo posso credere, sono venuto gli americani. Ma che? And I could have said nothing, I could have absolutely said nothing and continued with my online advertising spiel, but instead I said, non ci sono venuti gli americani, ci sono venuti gli europei. Fluency, and for those that don't speak Italian, they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe an American is coming here to teach us about selling cars. And I said, it's not American that's come here to teach you about selling cars online. It's a European. So my ask for each of you is, whoever it is that you are partnering, whether it is big tech or whether it is AI, get fluent in what matters. The relationships are not always strategic. The relationships sometimes are just transactional, and knowing the difference between which relationship you're in really matters. 1991. What happened in 1991 for Slovenia, for SOF? Anything happened in this year? No? No, nothing happened? 91. No. Nothing happened for me either. I was just walking by the sea, just chilling with my mom. It was a really big moment in being a teenager in Albania. I'm half Greek, half Albanian, but I grew up in communist Albania, and it was a big moment in being reminded what is essential. Democracy came, and in that moment we realized that there was something very essential that we didn't even know we had been missing. So with this last question, how can we be essential? My mom actually was the one that taught me English. And I learned the importance of what is essential in Albania way before Google. So that brings me to point number 3. What makes you essential? Salt was not a seasoning. Did you know that? Not just a seasoning. It was the difference between eating in the winter and starving. And in fact, for those that speak Latin, who know the origin of the word celery? Sal? The Italians, the folks that spoke Italian over here? Somebody tell me. The meaning of the word celery comes from sal, which means salt. Exactly right. Salt makes essential. It comes from Latin. Armies were paid in it. Cities were built alongside it. And that shift from flavor to essential is what inspired me to leave Google 3 years ago and build my own business, because I really wanted to build something that lasts. It was a little bit like going from having partnered in creating that feeling with the Paris Olympics. That's how it felt, Google, in the beginning. And then towards later on, it felt a little bit like that flavor was lost. Here's why it's very, very important to know what makes you essential. With every single founder and advertising company that I work today, it is not the ones with the most money that get to survive. And I've worked with a few founders that have had to shut down their companies. The ones that survive are the ones that are unapologetic about what makes them essential. And here's why this matters a lot. In this particular metric, and maybe the bottom one, okay, good, the bottom is showing big, 90% of B2B buying will be AI agent intermediated by 2028. This metric was revised to be 2028 because it was years into the future just last year. One winner. AI does not browse, it decides. Are you essential enough to your community that when AI does not decide about you, they will say, I need to see that brief from that company. Let me share a personal example here. Caffè Boroni. This is my parents, and one of them is my child, the one that's like looking into the camera, and the other one is my niece. Caffè Boroni is an Italian cafe in Northern California. It was started by an Italian family. It's been in the family for a while. And when COVID hit, they lost in 2 weeks $150,000. Maria Boroni, about my age, had to call her family. She's running the family business. She had to call her parents and her siblings and say, I am losing the cafe. And I cannot imagine a more difficult moment than to be tasked with something that matters to your entire family and to have to be the one that says, I am the reason why it is being lost. But here's what happened. She wrote a GoFundMe in which she said, if the cafe mattered to you growing up, please help. The COVID loan fell through. And in a period of 2 weeks, people from all over that do not live in California anymore, that had moved away, several of them anonymously, gave. They gave, and she raised, in those few weeks, over $100,000, and the cafe is still alive and running today. Why is that? Is it because they serve better coffee than Starbucks? Yeah, their coffee is better than Starbucks. It is solid European coffee. Is it because their sandwiches are so incredible and the meat comes from Rome and Nettuno? Maybe. But really the reason why they're so essential is because they tapped into a value for the community. I go there with my kids. I see the rest of the expats, whether they're Italian, whether they're Greek, Brazilian. We get together and we are reminded that there's a little piece of home away from home. They're selling really hot dogs and sandwiches and coffee, but what we are getting out of that is a community, and that is what makes them essential. So here's an example from your own community. Has anyone heard of Ana Roche? Am I saying the name right? Roche, right? Okay, all right. So, and has anyone eaten at her jazz cafe? I'm going to check it out tomorrow. Recommend, don't know? Okay, no votes. Hopefully it's good. Netflix says it's good. Here's what's really interesting about Anna. Not only has she received 3 Michelin stars, but it's 3, I do believe it's 3. But not only that, but she's also not even a chef that is trained in culinary. She was going to go into diplomatics, another person that speaks multiple languages more than me, actually. And Anna's created something very essential. People go to her restaurant to experience something that is this essential. She is the salt in the human form. So I would like you to ask yourself, if your agency closed tomorrow, if your business closed tomorrow, would your clients fundraise? That is what it means to be essential. To tie it all together, I've shared of 3 different things today. I've talked about salt preserving. If there is one relationship that you can guard this week, what is that one relationship that you can guard? Is it with your client? Is it with your customers? Is it with your community? And I'll share a story here. When I was building that book of business to get to $1 billion, there was a competition between me and another sales leader. Is there anyone in sales in this room? Does anyone do sales? Okay, yay, I see you. And there's lots of people outside that are in sales too. But you know how aggressive it gets when you're trying to hit your numbers and someone else might. So I really wanted to be able to say, out of the whole global team, it was my team that got to the billion. And I got a little bit too aggressive in my strategies to get there. And one of my mentors, he pulled me aside and he said, Jonika, I really need you to think about the relationships that you're building. They need to be relational, not transactional. So that's the number one thing. How can you build a relationship stronger before you need it this week? Number two, how can you add flavor? I heard several of you explain what your flavor is. You know it. And some of you did not explain it out loud, but I could see you saying it internally. I heard trust, I heard value, I heard community. And it was really interesting yesterday in the award ceremony. Who was here in the award ceremony? Yeah, okay. Well, I was in the award ceremony too. I didn't understand most of it because it was in Slovenian, but there was something that I did not need anyone to translate for me. And it was the SOS ad. Did everyone knows what I'm talking about? About protecting women? It was very clear to me without understanding a single word that the message and the flavor was, if these walls could talk, they would cry, because every home should be safe, but not every home is. And it was very difficult to get that flavor right. I can think of as an advertiser, it could have gone on the extreme, and people have said, oh my gosh, I'm triggered. Or it could have been so light that people would have said, you treated violence at home and what happens in such a light way. But they had found exactly the right balance, and from the fact that they got an award, that makes me feel that each of you understood that that flavor was there. And third, salt makes essential. How can you make yourself essential to one client this year? 3 easy things. I'd like to bring it back to the beginning. Do you remember my friend that used to say, for goodness sake, actually he swore, but there are children in the audience, so I will not say it verbatim, or at least there were some kids in the audience. And he used to say, it's just online advertising, we are not curing cancer. I and him, every time that we repeated that, we got it wrong. This is a picture of my kids. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because there's this particular story that I read that really stayed with me. One of my friends, Vesna, she's sitting in the audience, and I were having hot chocolate. And it was incredible and it was delicious. And it got us talking about chocolate and the chocolate industry. And what I found out was very demoralizing. I found out that in this day, today, because of what has happened to the farmers and that ecosystem, in the 1950s, they used to get more than 50% of the money from chocolate the farmers used to keep. But today, they keep less than 6%. That is an example of an ecosystem that is very broken. And because they keep so little, they do what no parent should have to do. Sometimes they sell their children into slavery. And there was a person, a Dutch person, that found the story, and he tried to raise awareness through journalism, and he tried to say this is unacceptable. And that story was not picked up. So then he went and he got chocolate. He got a bar of chocolate, and he walked into Ghana police station, and he said, I need to be arrested. And they said, why? And he said, I am an accomplice. If the fact that I am buying chocolate means that children are sold into slavery for $35 a child, I would like to be arrested. And again, nothing happened. Journalism failed. The criminal system failed. So he created a business, and he called it Choco Lonely, because he felt really lonely fighting a battle that should not be a lonely battle, protecting our children. And here's what was really interesting. His chocolate, Toonie's Choco Lonely, sells for significantly more than the rest. He explains the journey of what happens to the farmers that spend their entire life with the chocolate bean and don't even know what the heck that tastes like. And the impact of him being clear about his flavor, his preservation, and what is essential is the following. 4,000 farmers are getting living wages. He's preserving the ecosystem. His flavor, I am serious about people and protecting the people that matter. And what is essential? What makes me really excited, not just as a mother, but as a human being, is that 813 children have been saved. This is how we win, by being the salt. And he has not just done it because it's good. The impact of doing what is good as an ecosystem is that he has made in revenue $240 million, has experienced a 4x growth, and he is saying being premium and being good can coexist. I love this story because it connects the reason why I left Google. I want to work with founders that believe in people and believe in profit, building ecosystems that matter, and making money. In closing, I would love to share a few resources with all of you. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I have a newsletter that is integralisleadership.com, and I created this cheat sheet that you can scan the QR code, and it lists all of the research and the sources that in Silicon Valley the folks in marketing follow. The people to follow on LinkedIn, the resources to get more education and to continue your education in terms of AI and marketing, and my own thought process on crafting together this keynote that hopefully reminds all of you that you are sal zemlje. Hvala.
Jonika, thank you very much. Jaz bi vas prosil, da samo še malo ostanete v dvorani, ker bom potreboval malo vaše pomoči, ampak še prej bomo prosili Joniko, da odgovori na eno vprašanje. First, Jonika, we have one question for you. Is it better to be fluent in one subject, or is it best to be fluent in many subjects?
That's a very good question. I will say that I'll approach it if you are a student and if you are not a student, because the answer varies a little bit. If you are a student, I definitely recommend more of a liberal arts education, meaning, yes, experiment with multiple subjects, a little bit of business, a little bit of psychology, a little bit of education, computer science, because that allows you, when you get in the workplace, to figure out where are the needs. In fact, I just met two people in Albania. One of them had just graduated to be a doctor in London, and the other one graduated to be a psychologist. But because they kept their options open in also being technical, the psychologist has just gotten started into med tech, and the doctor is considering, because she's got some issues with her hands, the doctor is considering another space in medtech as well instead of practicing doctor. So, short answer, yes, study multiple subjects. And if this is not asked by a student, I think the most important thing right now is going to be how we learn. How we learn what is next, and I think zigzag is the path. It's no longer when I grow up, I'm going to be an engineer, I'm going to be a writer. It's when I grow up, I'm going to figure out what's needed, lean on my strengths, and then combine those two to thrive and do what matters.
Once again, a big round of applause for Jonika. Jonika, thank you very much.
Thank you.